Donny Van De Beek has been linked with Nottingham Forest, and in my opinion, I think he will fit right in with our medical staff. Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are, whatever time of day you're watching this. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest transfer news. In today's video, there is a lot to talk about. We've got this new rumoured link to Donny Van De Beek. We got an update on Lewis O'Brien, or Lemmy O'Brien. There's talks about a new physio that Forest have signed, which is fantastic news. There's a defender coming in potentially on a free and plenty of other stories. So if you're enjoying the content, please don't forget, as always, to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. And look at this signed framed Jono LED shirt. Go get it from our friends at Football Prizes. The link's in the description below. And very quickly, don't forget the FFTV live podcast and barbecue that will be happening on the 6th of August. Tickets are going very fast now, so grab your tickets quickly. The link's in the description. All right, that's all the housekeeping done. Let's start talking about the news. So Donny Van De Beek linked with Nottingham Forest, and let me get it straight from the off that the rumours are rumours right now. The sources, I wouldn't say are the most credible, but let's talk this one through anyway. It's a new name, and god damn it, if I have to talk about Hendo one more time, I will lose my rag. Anyway, do I like Donny Van De Beek? Well, let's talk about his profile first. He's come over to England from Ajax, where he was very highly regarded, playing in a kind of cam position, a bit of a floater. Not like the poo, well, technically he is crap. A bit like Morgan Gibbs-White, and again, not as good. He would float in the number 10 position, but Ajax would play in a 4-3-3, and he could find himself floating in and around across that front line. And when he moved across to Manchester United, there was a lot of hype surrounding him. I remember his campaign with Ajax in the Champions League, the goals he scored that season. I think Spurs got to the final, or the season before, one of them. And then when he came to Manchester United, a lot of the United fans are saying that he's actually been held back by Oli. Oli maybe didn't like his haircut, his name, something like that. There was a reason why Solskjaer wasn't playing him when he joined. And then once Solskjaer got booted out the door and Ten Hag came in, everyone was like, oh, it's his boy, Ten Hag, Ajax connection. We'll see the best of Donny Van De Beek now. And then he's had all these injuries. So he is one of these players that does have potential. We saw it at Ajax. We've seen none of it of Manchester United. In fact, all you really tend to see from him from United are sideways and backwards passes if he ever gets to play. Now, he went out on loan to Everton a season or so back, and he did okay-ish. Played in a kind of CM role rather than a CDM or a cam position, and did okay in that midfield. Nothing major. In fact, if I recall, he started well and faded. And I think that's the story of his career. Good promise to start with, fading into nothingness as it is. Now, I would not be interested in him whatsoever at Nottingham Forest for many reasons. One, I don't want to give Man U any more money. Can't stand that scum. Secondly, we already have that position filled. If he is now classed as a CM/box-to-box player, then what's he going to do? Get in ahead of Danilo? No, thank you very much. I know who I'd rather see on the pitch. He's not a CDM. That's the position we're lacking in the central area of the midfield. So he can't come in to fill that position. And he's not anymore a cam. And if he is, I'd still say Morgan Gibbs-White is the better player. And there's no chance, at least in my opinion, that he would push Morgan Gibbs-White out. So where does he fit in? It feels like, if this link is true, that we're recruiting for depth. And depth that's pointless, especially on his wages. He's on 140k a week at Manchester United. Now, there's no way he can demand those wages with his sick note records and everything else. And I just don't see the fit. I don't see the logic behind this one. That's why I'm not giving this rumor much strength. I think it's stupid. That's the word I would use. Logic seems to go out the window if there's any truth in this one. Forest still need a left winger. Forest still need a CDM. Forest need to tie down Dean Henderson. We need to tie down another left back in Lodi. There's still plenty of more important positions that need to be filled before we start looking at these squad depth players. And that's all he would be. Maybe you guys think I'm being harsh on him. I don't know. But if I was going to buy a Vander, I'd rather get Vander Fart back in out of retirement over Van Der Beek, man. He was a better player and probably is, even though he's like 100 years old now. So for me, this one is, if the rumours are true, and I don't really believe that they are, this is a massive, massive no for me. But what do you guys think? Would you take Van Der Beek in there? So according to reports, Callum Hudson-Odoi met with Nottingham Forest last week and is keen on the Cooper project and likes what he has seen. But I am very skeptical. The reporter on this, the less said, the better. But does that actually change anything? No, not really. Well, we all know that Hudson-Odoi and Forest have been heavily linked over the past few weeks. There's been talks about it turning into a free transfer as well. But if you want to believe this reporter, then that is entirely up to yourselves. Do I still think Callum Hudson-Odoi will happen? Yeah, probably. There's a good chance of it, especially if Chelsea turn it into a free transfer to negate the issue with his wages. But apparently Forest are front runners on this one. I'm still not convinced this is the perfect player for Forest. It is a project player and one that could work. He is still quite young, and Steve Cooper does like to work with the younger players and is good at developing those players. But overall, I still think Dennis is better. I know it's not a popular opinion, but Dennis for me is a better player than Hudson-Odoi, especially on the left. Now you can all say he hogs the ball, he does this, doesn't pass, etc. But I still say look at his track record. If you compare the two track records, Dennis has more Premier League goals. Dennis is more established in the Forest ecosystem than Hudson-Odoi is. But what I will say is that Dennis is clearly not in Cooper's plans. So if that's the case and Cooper's in charge, then so be it. You got to go with what the manager wants. That's how football teams work. We can give our opinions all we want. But the only opinion that really matters is Steve Cooper's on this. So if Hudson-Odoi comes in and Dennis goes out, fine. Let's see how that develops. Maybe there'll be some better chemistry between him and, say, Morgan Gibbs-White in the attacking side of the third of the pitch. But I'm just not that convinced about him. But a lot of you are fans of his. So let me know down below. Are you still convinced by Hudson-Odoi? Or would you rather keep Dennis? Let me know. Okay, let's move on to a player that I'm a huge fan of, and that's Lewis O'Brien. Lewis O'Brien, who's coming back from DC United. And there's actually some interesting quotes from Wayne Rooney on this one. It was clear that he was interested in keeping him stateside. But he's come out and said that basically negotiations with Forest couldn't happen and O'Brien was set to return back home. Now, does this mean that he's going to come home and stay at Nottingham Forest? I think the answer is probably no. Forest do need to generate some revenue this window. That is fact. There's no two ways about it. They need to bloat down the squad. And Lewis O'Brien's name is probably up for the chopping block because, let's face it, again, a bit like Dennis, he's not really in Cooper's plans. And there have been links coming out now with Sheffield United. We've seen the ones for the likes of Leeds before. Sheffield United have now emerged. And this one probably makes more sense. The problem is, I believe that Cooper will scratch his head and think twice about it because he could end up strengthening a Premier League team. That may, some of you, if you think Forest will be towards the bottom half of the table next season, maybe strengthening a close rival. Now, forgetting whether or not you think that Sheffield United will be near to Forest or not, personally me, I can't stand that scummy club. I still will never forgive them for 2003. But do you want to strengthen a team anyway in the Premier League with a player that's quality? And I don't think it would be the right move for us to do, but I do think it would be a good move for Lewis O'Brien. And you have to ask yourself, look, if the team is going to buy a player, they'll buy a player. It's not, nothing's going to change in that instance. So whether it comes from Forest or it comes from someone else, Sheffield United will be strengthening their team, obviously, as they are now trying to fight for survival in the Premier League. I don't know how I'd feel about this one. If I make my peace with it that Lewis O'Brien will no longer be a Forest player come August, then I like the idea of him being in the Premier League, just not the idea of it being Sheffield United, because I do think he's a Premier League player, and I think he will do well there. But that looks to be the front runner now for Lewis O'Brien. And I do think Cooper will be having that same conundrum that I just spoke about there. And should he let him go to Sheffield United, or should he keep him in the squad? I would keep him, guys. I really would. I do think I go back again. I've said it a million times, to the start of last season. He was our best player on the pitch, in my opinion, for the first month or so, until that fatal Leicester match where we lost 4-0. But what do you guys think? Would you let him go to Sheffield United, especially with the tension we have between the two clubs? Or would you rather keep him in the squad? Get your thoughts in down below. So a deal that may be close is Alexander Djiku. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. From Strasbourg, the defender, we've spoken about him a week or so ago, is linked heavily now with Nottingham Forest and on a free. And in a way, here we go. Just hear me out on this one. It's good that he's free, but I'm not convinced that he is the one, Neo. It's like, if I was Morpheus right now, I'd be telling him to take the blue pill, man. Because he's just not it at defending, and that's in the French league. I've seen a lot of him, and he tends to be a recovery defender rather than a proactive defender. Now, what do I mean by that? A lot of the times, his lack of defensive awareness gets him into trouble, but he's got a quick burst of pace. Now, he's not the quickest, but in terms of acceleration, he is. And he can tend to recover and get the tackle in and win the ball. But I don't know if you can get away with that in the Premier League. Because one, there are faster players in the Premier League than in the French league. And secondly, most of his recoveries where he's tried to win the ball back and has been successful are dangerous, high-risk plays. And he could end up being a penalty giver left, right, and centre. And I know a lot of you are going to say it's a free. But honestly, you can't just keep stockpiling free stuff. You know, if that was the case, then I'd have a million free McDonald's straws in my house. Don't just keep getting it because it's free. Get it because it's relevant to what you need. And I wouldn't put him ahead of Worrell either. Like, in my opinion, the hierarchy is Felipe and Niakate 1 and 2. Whatever order you want is fine. And then just following that, I'd put Bolly and Worrell in the next bracket. Now, would I say this dude is any better than those two? My answer is no. The only good thing he's got going for him is he is free. I could be wrong, and he could come into the Premier League and play well. Who knows, you know? And if he comes, cool. But just giving you guys my opinion on him, there are better links. I really like the Greek boy. I think he's the perfect fit for us. And I would worry if we brought him in, then Forest would look at it and think, okay, centre-back ticked. That's off the list now. We're not bringing in any more. And that's the bit that worries me. Not so much that he comes in, but does he stop someone else coming in because the price tag is free? But as the reports stand, and there are plenty of reports on this one, Forest are the front runners to pick him up. It's not for me. But what do you guys think? Still plenty more news to bring you. It's a bit of a busy one. So if you haven't already, just a quick reminder, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Next story we need to talk about is Sam Surridge to Leeds. Now, Leeds are interested in both Sam Surridge and Dennis, as we briefly touched on earlier. I don't think they'll get Dennis. I can see Dennis going elsewhere if he's going. Sam Surridge, for me, makes sense to go to Leeds because that is his level. An upper to middle championship club, I think he will flourish in really well. And I think it would be good development for him. He is better off going to Leeds than he is staying at Forest and just rustling away on the bench. I don't see him getting much game time, especially in the Premier League. Maybe a cup run or something like that is his best chance at football next season at Forest. So to go to Leeds, either on loan or for a sale, I think you can probably get 2.5, maybe 3 at a push mil for him. So it's not like it's a huge transfer. And I think it would hold him well to play at that level again and rebuild his confidence. You all say, or should I say, some of the fan base are absolutely adamant that he is the best finisher in the club. Yeah, the problem with that is half the time he is offside. But he is a good finisher at championship level. And I think Leeds would come out well from this deal to bring him on board because he does have those traits that work well in the championship. And with the squad they've got, if they can keep some of that nucleus, Sam Surridge will get himself a lot of chances in front of goal. And it's good for Forest because we get another player off the books, we get a bit of a transfer fee for it, and we can move on. And I'd probably bring Rodrigo the other way or use him as a part deal, ideally for Tyler Adams. Even if it knocked 3 or 4 million off, that would be fantastic. And I'd love Tyler Adams to come the other way. But for me, look, for the sake of Sam Surridge, he does need to leave Nottingham Forest. Whether you're sentimental about him or not, it doesn't matter. If you're honest with yourself, he won't get the game time next season. Even if, say, Forest bring in Iheanacho, he's going to go down the pecking order further. It just doesn't make sense for him to stay. So for his sake, and for Forest's sake, and even for Leeds' sake in this one, this sounds to me like a very smart deal for all three parties concerned. What do you guys think? Are you still grabbing onto Sam Surridge, or do you think it's time he moves on? Some of you will probably say a loan deal would be good. I think a loan deal would be okay, but I think let's just pass him forward, let him carry on with his career, and maybe in a couple of years, if he does progress more, we can buy him back once we're in Europe and stuff. But get your thoughts in on Surridge down below. Okay, let's bring you a Brennan Johnson update. Technically it is, but technically it's not. I'll explain in a second. But I do just want to remind you guys that Dino has done a comparison for Iheanacho, Jono, and Owoni on the High Press channel. So the FFTV High Press channel, make sure you go check that out. Subscribe to it if you haven't already. Now, this update on Jono is a bit kind of left lane update. So let me talk you through it. Villa have now been linked with Diaby, who is a top-notch player. And if they were to get him and be successful in that purchase, then they could no longer really attract Jono. Diaby can play left or right wing. He is very good at both and very versatile. And if they would, and they would have to splash out the cash on him, he's not going to come cheap. That would annul them from the race for Jono. Now, for me, we've seen the links of West Ham, Brentford for Jono. These are clubs that I don't think have the pulling power. I do believe Villa could have some pulling power on this one because they have European football. But if they were to get Diaby, that would take them completely out the Jono race. So if you want Jono to remain, which I think is the majority of us, then you better be backing for Villa to pull this one out the bag, because I can't really see him going to Villa. But if they do, I'll be impressed. It would be an absolute top-notch signing. But what do you guys think? Can you see Diaby going to Villa? Or are you going to start praying for it to happen? Let me know down below. Okay, so that brings you up to date with all your latest Nottingham Forest transfer news. A lot to digest in that, I know. And if you want some more content, as I just mentioned, go and check out how Iheanacho would fit in to the Nottingham Forest hierarchy by clicking on this link from Dino from the FFTV High Press channel. A lot of stats and a lot of interesting points raised. So make sure you check that out. And until then, don't forget to get your barbecue tickets. Go check out the Jono shirt down below. And we will see you on the next video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And come on, you Reds.